Welcome to Sierra Club Chronicles. In Wilmington, California, residents are 5 times more likely to get cancer than the average American. Their vulnerability is a direct result of the pollution coming from the largest port complex and cluster of oil refineries in the U.S. Jesse Marquez and his coalition are fighting to clean up the mess.
Emergency, emergency, 911, 911. There's black and brown smoke and there's flames everywhere, all around Wilmington. The smoke is choking us and it's burning our eyes. We don't know what to do. Everyone is outside their house scared.
If you're from out of town and you're coming into Wilmington, your eyes start watering. A lot of them have trouble breathing. They start like, like that, like they can't breathe through their nose. The air is bad, and it's getting worse.
I can't breathe on my own. I gotta have a machine to do it. Air in the Wilmington area is the cause of this.
One of the biggest problems is the refinery and the ports because of all the pollution they create and the hazard of an explosion of a refinery exploding. Right now with the high prices of home, a lot of us that were here, we're stuck.
People with no political voice and not high economic status tend to live in areas that when we are more affluent, we can move out to the nicer places. We don't need to live right next to the freeway. We don't need to live right next to the railroad tracks. We don't need to live right next to the refinery. Other people are not financially in a position to make those choices. They have to live there because they can't afford other places.
The community of Wilmington is predominantly a minority community. We're over 90% ethnic minority, low income and poverty. We're over 87% Hispanic.
This is where the Port of Los Angeles began. People have had generations of good jobs, mainly working on the docks. Many people located in Wilmington.
I came from a small little town in Mexico. When I was 6 years old, my parents brought me over. I grew up in the east side of Wilmington, the closest to the port that you can get. There was no parks in that area. I seen the port just grow. I see the containers in our backyards where they're stacked up 6-story high. Very dangerous. I see trucks driving through our streets.
Over the years, the port has trampled on this community, never quite realizing the long-term impacts that would have on people's lives. About 42% of all the trade that comes into this country comes through that port complex. But it really has had a negative effect in terms of the pollution. People have been choking on that economic engine for a long time. The goods that every American consumes on a daily basis, from what we eat to what we wear, come in from China, from Japan, from Korea, from Taiwan. They come through the port complex, they get on the back of the truck, and they move out to the rest of the country.
Wilmington is the place the trucks go through and they're polluting. It's the place the trains go through and they're polluting. Wilmington is the dumping ground for the little chunk of pollution that comes with everything that comes into the Port of Los Angeles, and that one community is having to absorb the pollution that the rest of us are responsible for.
Diesel exhaust is making people die in this air basin. It happens every day. This is not just an exercise in numbers. Real people do in fact die from cancer, heart attacks, strokes, asthma. All of these things have been linked to this type of air pollution. Why is this happening to people? Why are there more and more children with asthma?
Nobody in our family had asthma, my side of the family or my wife's side of the family. When my daughters were born, they were born with asthma. You bring a little tiny baby in to the house. You have to wake up in the middle of the night to give them their medicine and then keep it on their mouth for 15 minutes at a time. And as they were getting older, 1 year old, you're still doing these things. The oldest one just recently, maybe about 2-3 months ago, she ended up in the hospital. She was having a bad attack.
Emily, get the ball.
The doctor says it can come and go anytime, anytime. Once you have it, it's there.
There's things we can do to prevent this. And one of the things we can do to prevent this is to diminish the amount of diesel exhaust air pollution we've got in this air base. I'm tired of seeing people who are sick with cardiopulmonary disease when it's not necessary.
We got married, huh? We got married and then we were going on our honeymoon. And boom, he fell. Thanksgiving Day, crossing the street. On the trunk of my car. And he kept saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe.
I said to myself, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to pick him up? So I had called the emergency, the ambulance came. They took him. They took him, and from that day on, never came back. He's been in the hospital for almost 6 years, over 6 years now.
My sisters have allergies. My father has heart condition. I don't know, I guess it's the air. The air pollution, that's why they're all getting sick, I guess. Because so many years that we all lived here. I mean, see, my sister is...
they're overweight.
50... What was I going to tell you? You got me all messed up.
It's just so surprising that it came out like that. That it was, it's something, that that you would never think that it would happen to someone, I'm not mad at it because it happened. It happened. It's something.
What we want is a quality of life equal to what the majority of society has. Right now, you can live comfortable in Beverly Hills, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach. There is no port in those communities. There are no refineries in those communities. There are no other landfills. They don't have to face those type of things. So what we're trying to do is eliminate as much environmental impact as we possibly can.
At one time, I had the opportunity to go to community meetings, and that's when I met Jesse Marquez, and they were talking about certain things that were happening at the port. And that's when I realized, well, wait a minute, this is not just a coincidence that my kids have asthma.
Now, what's unique about this meeting is that 5 people attending it are the official AQMD board members. Basically, there's only been 4 of us from the community. The rest are like...
5 years ago, none of us were hardcore environmental activists. None of us knew the immense environmental impacts these ports were having. We didn't have a clue as to how that related to our family's health.
If we don't all get together and start cleaning it up, who's going to do it? The port don't care. They're making money. They don't care about our health. They don't care what happens to us.
Increasingly, we have community organizations banding together to do something, to take some power in their communities and try and make a change. In the Wilmington community, they're fortunate enough to have someone like Jesse Marquez, who's lived in the community for many years, has seen firsthand what has happened to his community, and has tried to make a change by standing up and saying, we won't put up with this anymore.
This is a refinery, so you qualify for this. Anyone that lives around here impacted by the refinery.
I think he is making a difference, and we've begun to finally see a switch in terms of the Port of Los Angeles looking at just their bottom line and looking at the damage that they've inflicted on the surrounding communities.
Welcome, Long Beach. Join Wilmington, join Carson, join San Pedro. We're all here.
Hi, everybody.
We've now been able to take on the ports, challenging them on what they're doing, force them now to reevaluate their strategic planning, their growth proposals, also forcing them to use new technologies that minimizes air pollution. Many people don't understand what's going on, and we understand that, you know. That's when we made our flyers in English on one side, Spanish, and we just try to do our best, you know. If we're trying to clean up the act at the port and we're trying to clean up the act at the refineries, then we feel that the railroad industry should do its fair share also. Everyone, let's stand right here for a big group photo. Right here, big group photo. So right now we have some of our Coalition for Safe Environment members. We have Sierra Club Harbor Vision Task Force, and it looks like we also have some of our Port Community Advisory Committee members representing Wilmington. We had been preparing a document called the Ports Community Bill of Rights.
Do you have a copy?
We recognize that it wasn't just our harbor communities here in Los Angeles and Long Beach that have significant negative environmental and public health impacts. We met people and residents that live near the Port of San Francisco. We met people from down in Houston, Texas, and they were also having the same problems. So then I began to look at what type of universal document could we put together to assist other port communities and also let them know that we understand their problem. And if we join forces together, we help educate each other, then the whole world can benefit by this document, a Port Communities Bill of Rights.
The projections say that this port will triple in growth in 20 years. But I also believe we don't have to sacrifice the quality of life for people who live in Wilmington and San Pedro and the harbor area.
Our policy is not no growth. Our policy is clean growth.
We do not care if we are number 1, 2, 3, or the top 10 in the United States for ports. Our health, our environment, our quality of life is our priority. Although Wilmington is not a Beverly Hills, it has been a home to many of us. When I grew up as a child, 7 of us lived in a 1-bedroom house. Many of us know what it is to be very poor.
I grew up across the street from an oil refinery. It was a weekday, and it was about 5 o'clock in the evening. I was walking down the hallway to go towards the living room and kitchen when all of a sudden there was this gigantic, large explosion that shook the house so bad that it knocked me down to my feet. One of the large fuel storage tanks at Fletcher Oil Refinery had exploded and was on fire. I could just hear my mother and father say, you know, let's go outside to get to the car so we can get out of here. As we were going outside and getting in the car, a second one blew up. And it was so hot while I was in the car, I had to actually jump out of the car because it was just too hot. I just couldn't stay inside there because of the intense heat. The force of the blast was so strong that the lid of the tank landed in the middle of the street. As I'm running to the back, I could hear a voice yelling, "Boy, boy, please turn around." And there's this woman holding a baby. She just says, "Please, please save my baby. Don't turn around. Just run with my baby."
When the first one blew up, I told my wife, let's get out of here.
It was so huge, all you saw was this big flame, ball of flame that was, I can't imagine how wide it was. It was no more than a block wide, just coming right at us.
So Mom always wore sleeveless. That's why she was burned from her arm all the way down her arms, because all her flesh was showing. It just burned flesh, but we were like this covering ourselves.
This man, explosion threw him way up there by the street inside of a truck. And he got killed, so I went down and let him know. And they found him there, but the man was dead already.
The 2 men died in that day. After all this commotion happened to us, some representatives from the Fletcher Oil came over here and knocked at our door and said, well, if you would have stood in the house, nothing would have happened to any of you. How were we to know we weren't going to get burned? We thought our house was going to blow up with the whole thing, and that's important to make us aware. They never made us aware what was in those tanks, and they never told us, here's a brochure in case something happens, stay indoors. If you're indoors, nothing will happen to you.
Now, once you've experienced that as a child, it's in your memory forever. Because then you really realize that it can take your life, and that we depend on the refineries and their management, and we depend on government agencies to have the appropriate laws and rules and regulations to make sure that the public safety is number one.
I'm in the middle of 3 refineries. The time that we had this explosion is September 12th. All 3 went up at one time. In this area, it was so bad. Clouds were in the sky were jet black. You had rolling flames in the sky. You had brown smoke. You had people coming out of the house. What's happening?
On Monday, September 12th, the Department of Water Power in the city of Los Angeles had a power failure. 3 refineries in Wilmington lost power. So what happens is that they begin to burn the excess gases that are in the pipeline and the system. And government agencies have determined that the black smoke causes cancer. So we're being exposed to carcinogenic particulate matter, which is the smoke. So the purpose of the survey is to interview people to find out, what did you experience as this was happening? How did it have any type of a health impact on you and your family? Now, brown smoke means that there was some sulfur being burned. That is also a toxic chemical.
¿Usted tuvo algún problema para respirar?
Nomás el olor, nos tuvimos que meter para adentro por el mismo olor.
¿Del departamento de bomberos vinieron?
No.
¿No? ¿De la refinería le hablaron por teléfono a alguien?
No, yo fui el que hablé a la refinería de lo que estaba pasando y que lo único que me dijeron que eso era fuera de control. ¿Te imaginas toda esta gente que está aquí? Estamos en una bomba.
Cuando usted vea humo negro, usted tiene humo negro, café o amarillo, usted tiene que cerrar sus puertas inmediatamente, porque eso es muy dañino para la salud.
Mothers had to take their children to the hospital. Entire families were sick. They were getting headache. They were getting noxious.
It was something. See, like that. That's the way it looked.
This coming Friday, there is going to be a public hearing. It's going to be part of the South Coast Air Quality Management District. And they're proposing a new rule to prevent flaring, to minimize flaring, and if it's serious, provide some type of on-site medical care and medical information. What we learned from this survey, we'll write a report and we're going to present it. Each refinery is making billions and billions, you know.
Right. Look how much money they've been making.
Yeah. So basically we're done, and that wraps it up for us now. We're ready for Friday.
That's good. Okay. That's good. We're ready.
We'd like Mr. Marquez to come to the line, please.
My name is Jesse Marquez, Executive Director, Coalition for a Safe Environment. We are a nonprofit, community-based organization. Who do I represent, and how do I know what they think and what they feel? So in front of you, we also delivered to you a survey. 46% had breathing problems. 44% felt sick for more than one day after September 12th. Flaring is preventable. The technology does exist. They just don't want to spend the money.
You represent all of the refineries, and I think we've been looking to you to police your own industry, and that hasn't totally occurred, and that's why we're having this discussion, and that's why this rule has come about. We need to look at some new technologies. Spend the money to capture those emissions.
It would seem to me the technology is purchasable, that you can buy it.
There's perception and reality.
No, reality is dollar bills. Trust me, I'm in business.
Well, you know how many of those dollars get redeposited?
62 billion buys you a lot of reality. Is there any opposition to this motion?
This motion is carried.
This is now the most stringent rule for oil refinery flaring in the state of California and the entire United States. We have a new victory.
We're not playing around anymore. We're always there when we're not invited.
Did I give you the Port Community Bill of Rights?
One of the inspiring things about what's happening in Wilmington is people are discovering their power, because by reaching out to their friends and neighbors, they can do something about this air pollution.
Numerous organizations have come to us now to share their expertise. And then now we've seen ourselves organized, we've learned this information. Even though we make personal sacrifices, we are changing the course of our history. What we've done now is begun to lay the foundation, but we do know more can be achieved. What we have learned can benefit other cities and other communities, not just here in California, but throughout foreign countries. They're considering building a new port in the town of Punta Colonet, where right now it is a pristine, clear, clean beach.
So remember, you guys have to clean up the mess after you guys are done.
Yes.
Our family is from Mexico, so we feel it's necessary to go to Mexico, inform the community that if you support this project and if it's built there, what type of environmental devastation will occur there, and what type of health impacts will this have on this community.
Oh, look it! Old-fashioned carriage.
So, ¿dónde está la área de propósito por la puerto? Esta es la Cabo Colonet.
¿Qué de grande les han dicho que va a ser el puerto?
Más grande que los de San Diego,
O sí, más grande que los de San Diego, de Los Ángeles, no.
El año pasado vinieron unos grupos para presentar el proyecto.
Nosotros no estamos a contra del puerto 100%. Nosotros queremos que la gente esté informada y que también sepa los daños que va a causar. Quiero saber si eso también le han dicho a ustedes, de los problemas esos.
De todo el impacto ambiental y de la contaminación en el mar, todo eso.
Sí, todo eso.
Pues dicen que no va a ser mucho, pero quién sabe, sí, dicen siempre, pero...
Hay muchas promesas.
Sí.
Hay trabajos. Pero la verdad es, hay mucha polución del aire, cáncer, asma.
Pero pues todos sabemos que el progreso pues siempre trae sus consecuencias, ¿verdad?
Pero es mejor para
y aquí en este lugar donde nosotros estamos, todas las personas que vivimos aquí trabajan en las tierras, los patrones son los que son ricos. Y al ver una cosa de esas, a lo mejor la gente ya va a tener otros trabajos donde ganan más dinero y puedan vivir mejor, aunque con la polución, como estamos hablando, ¿verdad? Pero pues ni modo, hay que correr el riesgo.
There is an economic benefit to it. It will create jobs. But if it's going to create jobs, we want to make sure that both the workers are protected as well as the residents are protected.
I wish people would have told me what I was getting into when I moved into Wilmington. Mucha de la gente no sabe de lo que viene, lo que es un puerto y los problemas que trae. Es una de las cosas de comenzar a abrir los ojos a la gente para que sepan que tienen derechos.
Muy bien. Es un proyecto que se está manejando a nivel gobierno. En verdad ha sido muy poca la información que ha llegado aquí a la comunidad.
Mira, mija, hay muchas galletas diferentes. Nosotros vivimos en Wilmington, la vecina de la Puerto de Los Ángeles. Nosotros tenemos grandotes problemas de salud. La Puerto de Los Ángeles es número 1 en la polución de aire en Sur California. No son aquí para recomendación, votan no o votan sí. Nada más de presentar información de nosotros experiencias. Y cuando las comunidades tienen información, es evidencia para sus decisiones.
Yo viví desde pequeña aquí y pues sí me gustaría que hubiera un progreso económico. Pero ya con esta información, o sea, lo que vamos a tratar de que no se contamine demasiado, ¿verdad?
Nosotros preparar una carta de derechos.
Article 1. Every community is entitled to clean air, free from pollution. Article 5. Every community is entitled to an environment that promotes a good, healthy quality of life. Article 7. Shall not be exposed to toxic. Article 10. Article 13. Right to the best available alternative.
I'm trying to look out for my kids. As far as the environment, it's important. You know, we need an environment to live in. We need an environment to survive.
Article 14, freedom from traffic congestion and business sprawl, right to participate in decision making.
I think there's really a lot of hope for Wilmington. I think the city is acknowledged, and I think they're aware.
We have learned that we can change our futures.
Once you've organized your community, we can accomplish a lot, and that's what's happened.
Wilmington is just one of many communities fighting for a clean, healthy, and safe environment. To find out more about this story and what you can do in your own neighborhood, please visit us at sierraclubtv.org.
Funding provided by the Ford Foundation, with additional support from the Sierra Club Foundation.